How you doing, Miss Kim?
I'm doing fantastic, Miss Heather. I don't know how we somehow convinced people that we can answer questions of all sorts.
Well, we're very convincing.
True, true. We
People
got that
think we
going
know
for
stuff.
us. How are
They
you
think we know
today?
stuff. I'm just a pretty face.
That's what Scott says to me all the time. Just sit there and look pretty. When I'm like, what are we doing? What is happening right now? You just sit
Why?
there and look pretty. He's like, I got this. So Heather, you just sit there and look pretty.
I do
And
that
no.
so well.
You do. You're my beautiful friend. So I was telling Heather before we got on here live, I walked past my teenage son and said, I'm going live on Coffee with Kim, 5 minutes. You heard it here first. That's what I
Heard
said.
it here
I go,
first.
you heard it here first. And he goes, okay. And, and I hopped on with Heather and I'm like, he wasn't even excited. He didn't even ask if he could sit in. He didn't even ask if there was room in my Beats room, which is what the kids call it, to watch me on my show. Now, do you think that's a reflection of the small time show that I have, or the fact that he's a teenager? Please say choice B.
I'm going to say both. I'm going with it definitely has a lot to do with the fact that you're his mom and that he could care less what we have to say.
Yeah, and you know what? When you come around, when you come for visits, they don't stick around very long when we're hanging out, do they? So why
No,
would they want to watch the show?
exactly. Now the girls get into us. I think they like us. They're interested. We've had
Oh,
some really, really interesting conversations with your daughters.
the girls will be like, Miss Heather's coming, and they make sure they're home. So that's like the highest compliment to get
For
from a
me,
teenage
yeah,
girl, right?
it
To the
is. It
teenage
is.
girl clears her calendar to be there for mom's friend who's coming to visit. So that's true. You do get that. You even get my older daughters will sometimes clear their calendar to come and see Miss Heather. So
Yeah,
yeah,
especially Taylor. She's so good about it. She always tries to
yeah.
visit me. Visits me.
But we got this today, guys.
Yeah,
Um,
we're good. We're so good. I'm
I
so
was
good.
going to
Just
say
making
the other thing our viewers probably don't know is sometimes Heather fights with me and claims Taylor is her daughter, and
absolutely.
that somehow this child got switched at birth because my Taylor is a Taylor. So Miss Heather's last name is Taylor,
That's
and my
me.
daughter's name is Taylor. So she'll even like use that as some sort of evidence that my daughter was supposed to be her daughter. And it's actually hilarious. It cracks me
It's
up.
true though. Her daughter's a blonde. I'm a blonde. I'm a real blonde. And her daughter is snarky and sarcastic and
Funny.
quick-witted. And I mean, come on, we know. And she's just so well, I don't want to say the word I was going to say, but that's why, because she would have said it.
So on a podcast, my daughter had no filter until about her 27th,
When she became a
26th
mommy.
birthday. I don't even know. Yeah, but she does have a filter, and she has a vault now too, but for many years, no filter, no vault.
Right.
If you wanted it to not be a secret amongst the family. So by the way, my daughter Macy now is the one with no vault who cannot keep a surprise. It's not even a secret. She can't keep a surprise.
Really, Macy? That's surprising.
Yeah, so we're doing this trip for Kelsey's birthday coming up, and Macy, as some of you know,
That
just
was nice.
recently moved to Montana, so she's homesick already, and her and
Oh,
Kelsey were like this or are like this. I can't say we're like now. The relationship's over because
right.
you know. But they were like this in their daily lives, because they both lived in Madison, were roommates for a long time, and anyway, Macy found out that Kelsey and I planned this little birthday road trip. Kelsey loves to travel. If you ever want to give her a gift, it's the gift of travel.
Oh,
And
yeah.
then Taylor got robbed turning 30 during COVID. She turned 30 on March 15th, literally had no birthday celebration whatsoever because of COVID. And she was about to give birth and they didn't want to be
Aw.
exposed. Yeah. So like nothing for her birthday. And So I said to Taylor, you know what, you've been robbed for your birthday. You need to come on this trip with me and Kelsey. Well, then I tell Macy, me, Kelsey, and Taylor are having a birthday trip. It's Taylor's do-over. It's me and Kelsey's birthday. And Macy goes, I should surprise them and fly home. And I'm like, yes. So she books a ticket and like the whole thing is set. And she tells them, well, I had to tell
I'm
Taylor,
supposed to come to this. When is this? I'm one of the girls. You didn't invite me.
it's on your birthday.
I should surprise them and go on my birthday.
Well, I have no problem with this and I would have invited you, but you know who would hate me eternally? Every other Taylor in the Taylor family. So, they'd be like, what do you mean you're leaving on your birthday? So anyway, Macy goes, she group FaceTimes me yesterday and it's Macy and Kelsey. Did you ever do a group FaceTime? They're pretty cool. I'm tiny in the corner and Kelsey's half the screen, Macy's half the screen. It's beautiful for a mother. I screenshotted it. And the opener was the cat's out of the bag. I'm like, what the heck?
Oh, Macy. It's so much more fun when it's a surprise.
It's so much so. Then Kelsey's like, yep, she told me. And she's like, I'm so excited, but I really would have been more happier if it would have been a surprise.
Oh, that would have been
such like, I just can't keep a surprise a secret. So the surprise is ruined, as they say.
Do they all know where you're going, or is that a surprise?
They do know where we're going.
They do.
Yeah, they do know where we're going. So, and they pretty much know what we're doing because I kind of planned the weekend and they're super excited. And Ruby's coming, Ruby Marigold. So the little grandbaby's going on her first road trip with the girls.
Don't take your love to town. Sorry.
What? I've not heard that one. That's a new one for you.
I'm not even sure if that's the right name, actually. I was thinking of a Kenny Rogers song.
So good. So anyway, yeah, we have an issue in our family with keeping surprises and keeping secrets. But Taylor,
I'm totally jealous. Just want you to know that.
Well, you can take stock in the fact that one of my kids is actually your kid. So
yeah, I do. I take even more stock that I didn't have to go through the labor.
Or the hard teenage years. You just got to be like the good guy.
I love it.
You got to be the good cop.
It's my favorite.
Rude. So rude.
Hey, I am the good guy. I'm a good guy.
Anybody who got to be the good cop for my kids when I was always the bad cop because I was the only parent they had, they have a dad and they have a stepdad, but I was the only one who really, on all counts, on all fronts, had the ability to use authority in their life. And they kind of disregarded mine too, but they really disregarded all the others, okay?
You were the tough guy, yeah.
I had to be a bad cop. I was like the last man standing in terms of like authority and parental figures in their lives. And so anybody who got to be good cop, I was so jealous of. Like, I want to be the good cop. So as soon as they become adults, I get to be the good cop.
Yeah.
And all the bad things that happen to them are bad. And I'm here to cheer you on and comfort you, and all those things that I always wanted to do.
Everybody else is the bad guy now.
Yeah, life is the bad guy. So speaking of life being the bad guy, we have viewers who have some questions about that.
Bum, 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 bum. I don't know why I'm the sound effect person today, but
I love it. And the song person.
Yeah, actually we do. We have some great questions, you guys. You did such a good job. I put the word out and you came. You rose to the occasion. And some of them we were kind of like, wow, you could have made it a little easier.
Yeah. I said, oh, thank you for the kindergarten level questions. Not. We went right to college. Right to college.
Yeah, and I've never even been to college, so I'm not going to be answering these questions. Kim is. I'm going to read them. I'm going to stumble through trying to read them, and we're going to let Kim, with all her infinite wisdom, answer these questions.
Kim's praying. Let's pray. Let's open in prayer.
Yeah, next time you guys can write in and ask me questions like, what deodorant do I use and that stuff.
Okay, first, before you read the questions, shout out to Val, Shelly, and Nilda, who are saying hello to each other in the comments section. I love the love in our Coffee with Kim viewership. They're all like, how are you? Good to see you. You guys are awesome. I love it.
Good. I love you guys. I love all of you. So, hi, Valerie. Hi, Shelly. I don't see Nilda yet, but hi. I
Nilda is replying to Shelly. So, guys, ladies, if you're watching and while we're answering and asking these questions, please chime in.
Yes,
Please chime in.
absolutely.
Let's talk here. Let's get down to business. We're going to be
Goodness.
talking about boundaries and some faith questions today. So, if you know of anyone who has boundaries questions or questions about our loving God, and then ... share Coffee with Kim right now. In fact, I'm going to go in here and share it as well. I'm going to share it on my personal page.
Yes, and I also shared it on mine. And a question arises for me, Miss Kim. When we share it, can they ask questions on the page they're watching it on?
You know, I think that when they comment, like if I share it to my personal page and they comment there, I don't always see that until later.
Yeah,
So
that's what I'm wondering.
if people want to ask questions that we see during the broadcast, they need to join our Coffee with Kim group
Okay.
or
And I
click on Coffee with Kim podcast group, and we can check back throughout the show to see if people are trying to join. We'll add you as the show goes on, but really just tell your friends to join the group if they have questions. You can even just, post the link to the group. And it's just facebook.com/group/Coffee with Kim podcast.
okay, I
I
did it.
believe that's our link. So
Yeah, I put the link in there, and if you guys want to share it on your page, you can copy and paste and have them tune in as well. You can also share it while it's going on right now. Spread our faces throughout Facebook. That's what it's all about. Because everybody needs this little bit of sunshine in their life.
amen. A to the men. We're going to be your sunshine today, guys.
Sunshine shining on me. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's like you're in the shower. You sound amazing.
Oh, thanks, doll.
I'm serious. Like the acoustics in your room are just...
I'm living the let go life, let me tell you.
Well, why don't you sing about it? Should I play it on my computer?
No, you really should not.
Guys, I have a soundbite of a voice memo Heather sent me that I downloaded, where she's singing a song she made up about living the let go life as a reminder to the both of us to let go and let God. And she's got background singers. I swear there's some percussion in there. And every now and again, when I just forget to let go and let God, I play this hilarious jingle that her and her background singers came up with. It's her and Kenzie, her granddaughter, and her husband.
Yeah.
It's so awesome. And I play that. And not only does it remind me, it cheers me right up. So Heather,
if I recall, that was the lesson, wasn't it? When we were doing the study on it, you told us to write a jingle. And we all know I think in jingles, or you said like a song or something, but my whole life, my whole head, ladies, is filled with jingles. So
I actually challenged you guys to write a jingle.
yeah.
That's weird. That's just plain weird.
Or
Who
a theme
does that?
song or something. I don't know. You do.
Okay. I guess I do. All right. So let's get down to business. I'm almost done sharing this. Sorry, guys. I got a little distracted. All right. You can also watch us now on my personal page and on the Fellowship of Extraordinary Women business page. And let's go. If you guys have questions, just bombard us in whatever way you can.
Drop it in the comments.
Drop it like it's hot. Drop it like it's hot.
Okay. Drop it like it's hot. Okay, we're done. This is ridiculous.
So ridiculous.
Okay, are you ready for your first question, Miss Kim?
I'm ready as I'm going to be.
Okay, and I'm not going to say who wrote in these questions because they didn't give us permission.
Anonymity. We'll protect your anonymity.
That word. Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay, so the first question. I feel like I have to go to Facebook to see what my spouse is thinking. For example, joining things, joining group conversations, signing up for things, and sharing feelings he has not shared with me. What do you do when your spouse is more open and engaged on social media than he is with you? That's a very good question.
Wow.
And in today's world, that's a very real question.
Yeah. So what's interesting about this question to me is that it's the the wife talking about her husband. And so typically husbands aren't, as open on a social network as women are. Like good lordy, the things women comment, like we need to chillax on the, TMI, too much
You
information.
don't want to know what color your panties are today,
Yeah.
ladies.
Or like the drama that just went down. Like there's a place for that, but not the public, setting. Well, anyway, so I thought that was really interesting, and it made me think like about the dynamic between men and women, and oftentimes in marriage. So I don't know any more details. I don't know, other than he was single for a long time, so he did live more of an online life. So that was a lifestyle that he lived before the marriage. Okay, that's the only other piece of information that I have about this question. And so I think that my gut was like, well, is there something in your communication as a married couple that makes him feel less safe? Like obviously everybody's saying their thoughts and feelings on social media because it's totally safe. You're not eye to eye. You're not in a room. You can't hear people yelling at you. You can't see the look on their face. A lot of people are more emboldened on social media right now because of the fact that you're safe behind a screen.
Right.
So my first thought was, does he feel safer behind a screen being himself and being vulnerable than he does face to face? And that could be something with his wife or anyone. He might just be a person who doesn't like to be real in person in front of people. It could be
Right.
anyone. It could be that all the while that he was not engaged in a more intimate relationship, that was his norm, and he's really having trouble shifting a gear and being that guy, being that same guy in a room as he is on social media. Another thing could be is people put forth a certain persona on social media, like maybe who they want people to think they are, but
Yeah.
that isn't really who they are. So maybe you're finding all this out on social media and you're not hearing it at home because he's being someone he thinks people want him to be, but with you, he's just himself,
Right.
So
Right.
there's all kinds of dynamics, and without knowing the real cause or reason, my answer is really, how do you handle it? Well, you got to have some conversations. You got to start. I think you start with a conversation that just is more curious. You got to be curious with them, not accusatory, not even offended, not hurt.
Use I feel, I think, I'm interested in. Don't.
Yeah, like before you even share your feelings, be curious. So what does that look like? Well, so I was on your social media the other day and I learned blank, 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 blank about you. I'm curious as to why we're not having these conversations. Like I like learning new things about you. I was either surprised or I was pleasantly surprised, or I was shocked to find out that that's what you think or feel. And I would love to know those things about you because I'm your wife. So is there a reason why we're not having those conversations together here, one-on-one? Like, is there anything holding you back? Am I holding you back? What's holding us back? And so starting out curious, so that there's, I just think in general with men and women, like the last thing you want to say is, we need to talk. Don't start out with, we need to talk. I read your social media. Immediately, whether it's male or female, we're going to feel on the defense. So starting out curious before you draw conclusions. And then Heather, you taught me something really, really profound about marital conversation. And it's when your spouse says something, take them at their word, right? Even
Yeah.
if you don't think it's true, even if it sounds like they're hiding something, even if you're like, there's no way that's your real motive, even if you're convinced that they're lying to your face, take them at their word. So that might mean if they say to you, no, I feel completely safe sharing all of my heart's desires and dreams and feelings and emotions with you. I feel so safe with you, yet they're not sharing any of those things with you.
Right.
You still take them at their word. So what would that sound like, Heather, if
To a
I'm the
point.
wife and I'm like, so do you feel comfortable having these conversations alone with me as your wife? And and the other person is saying, totally, totally, yeah, I want that with you, and I feel totally open to that. But it's like, then why aren't you doing it? What does taking them at their word sound like?
Well, to me, what that would mean is you would have to say, okay, that's great, because that's what I want too. And then I would ask more questions, though,
Okay.
and honest questions. But once again, you never want to ask a question and then go, you're a liar. You're just a big fat liar. That's not going to, I mean, the lines of communication are going to get closed really quick. They're going to shut down. But by asking questions and accepting the answers, they're going to open up more to you. They're going to do it not even realizing it.
I love it.
Um,
I
so
love it.
that would be my advice. One thing I would say though, if he's been single for a long time, I mean, life is just so different than it was, right, Kim, than even 15 years ago. So that was the way that people actually spoke to each other, and that they made friends. A lot of people have friends that they've never even met in person, that they established. So he could just have this whole different persona online, but that doesn't mean it's the real him. Maybe you're getting the real him, and like Kim was saying, maybe he's just kind of putting up those images online for his friends, but maybe you're getting the real guy. But I think if you want him to open up, just sit, like Kim said, have a conversation, be honest with your feelings, but don't attack him. And then
Yeah.
also, I always throw in, because I tend to be cautious. The internet, there's so many ways to get into a lot of trouble. So you just you want to keep your eyes open, but your heart open too.
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess my best answer is, oftentimes, especially women, because we oftentimes our relational nature makes us feel a pressure to um, correct or resolve the relational misunderstanding or relational difficulty. So we want to do this in one conversation. And so I think my best advice is, plan on having a series of talks about this. You're
Right.
not going to get to the bottom of something like this in one talk. That's
Amen.
why I said your conversation number one is, I'm curious about this. These are the things that I've enjoyed learning about you on social media. Is that really, like, are these real parts of you that I can take as authentic? Or
Perfect.
is this, and you don't want to say, or are you being a phony on social media?
Or
But
are
just
you
be
a
like,
big
yeah, like, is this like really authentically what you think and feel? Because if it is, I want to take those things in and learn about you. And then, so the conversation one is curious why we're not having those conversations one-on-one. I would love those conversations. So you're telling him what you would love to enjoy
Yeah.
that with him. Then let him chew on that. Let him chew on that. Maybe leave him with one question to chew on, like, what is something I can do as your wife to foster more of those conversations, or to initiate more of those kinds of conversations in a way that it would be, more beneficial. And then leave him sit on that and say, we can talk about this another time. And leave it open-ended for them and let him chew on that and think about that. Well, then if he's not getting back with you after a few days or a week, you certainly can bring it up again. So have you thought about the question I asked? Is there something I can be doing to have more engaged one-on-one conversations where I'm learning more about your thoughts and feelings, or discussing some of the things that you're discussing with other people on social media?
Yeah.
And then you have conversation number two. Well, this is where you kind of now start to expect an exchange, right? And you're looking for the two of you to be solving the problem together. But what you did in the first conversation was try to make it a not intimidating, a not accusatory, so that conversation number two, there can be more of an openness between the two of you. If you have two or three conversations and it's like you sense that there's something he's protecting, you sense that there's a resistance, you sense that there's a defensiveness, you sense like, we're not working on this together. I'm trying to cultivate something here and I'm meeting with opposition or resistance. Then it might be time to think about talking to a third party about this,
There
or
you
even just coming right out and asking the question, why am I sensing resistance? Why is there resistance to this open dialogue, me getting to know you better, me feeling like maybe some of the people on the other side of your screen feel when I'm your wife? Like, what is that about?
go.
So after you've attempted this in a much more relaxed way, you might just have to ask the question.
Yeah.
And depending on the answer, you might have to go to the next level. And that answer could be, what do you mean? I'm not resistant at all. Well, yeah, you are, you know? And so then it's like, well, I'm feeling resistance. I'm feeling like I'm the only one here trying to do something about this lack of knowledge I have about your life, a lack of intimacy I have with you on certain topics.
Right.
You know, a lack of engagement when you're making decisions to commit to things without talking to me. I'm trying to work this out with you so we can function as a team. And if you're not able to do that, then you might need to suggest getting help. Here's something I learned in my first marriage that I'll take with me to the grave, and I'll tell men and women this till the day I die. You can go to marriage counseling alone. You
Yeah.
don't have to wait for your spouse to go and get good counsel. That's what I've had to do.
It's so true.
And I've gotten good counsel that has helped me take care of me in the marriage, even when I felt like I was the only one trying to fix certain things. And so to this wife, I would say, you might end up in having an incredible conversation and building a closeness with your husband. Best case scenario, you guys figure it out together. And worst case scenario would be you're in counseling by yourself. But what I would say to you is, don't just let it go and look the other way. Most problems in marriage are symptoms of deeper problems, you know? And I heard somebody say once, the things that are the demise of a marriage aren't the problems itself. It's how the couple talks about or doesn't talk about the problem
Right.
that is the demise of the relationship.
Yeah. That's so
So
true.
make the communication the hill you die on, not the social media issue. And
Right.
that would be my best words for you, my friend.
Those are good words.
Thank
I
you.
100% agree with that. And actually, we have some women in our comments that were giving their advice. But one of the things that I read by Shelley, and I agree with, I'm just going to read the bottom part, but she said if he's giving her access to social media and his posts, so he's not going out of his way to be sneaky, that's just his
Good
comfort
point.
zone, you know, and
Mm-hmm.
that's a good point. That's a real good point. Because if it was a negative behavior that you really wanted to worry about, this would probably be more of a sneaky, a different, you know, a lot of people have fake profiles that they create so they can, so, you know, the fact that you're able to see it and that he's being open and honest, I think it's just a matter of, like Kim said, conversation, you know,
Well,
and it's not going to happen overnight, but it can
and
happen.
because she does have open access, that's a good sign. But it's also like, I can see why this wife is kind of like, ouch, I didn't even know that. And I'm married to you. And
Yeah. Oh,
so
yeah.
I empathize fully with the wife in this case. And her biggest challenge is going to be to set aside any hurt feelings and try to approach it curiously instead of from a
100%.
hurt place. But I empathize with the hurt. I would feel the same way.
Oh,
So.
yeah. Yeah. I mean, just because we're supposed to be everything, why aren't you sharing? So that's great advice, Kim.
Thank you.
I would love to hear back from our, you know, the woman that wrote in, and I would love to hear if she puts this to use and what happens. So
Yes, we
feel
love
free to do that,
follow-up
please.
stories. Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so our next question is, I'm looking forward to your upcoming talk about boundaries. Could you speak a little on setting boundaries with individuals with narcissistic personality tendencies?
Okay. First of all, if you are dealing with anyone with narcissistic personality tendencies, what I say today is probably going to be like an eighth of the help that you need. And I am definitely not a professionally trained counselor. And dealing with someone with narcissistic tendencies, you need a circle of people around you of support because of the challenges that that brings, and one of those people should definitely be a professional. So I'm just going to start by that's advice numero uno. You need a small circle, not a big circle, just an intimate circle of only people you can trust that have your best interest at heart, who are going to give you wise counsel, but one of those should very likely be a professional. What I can say about people with, they're maybe not diagnosed narcissist, they maybe have, what she's saying is narcissistic tendencies. Well, to me, I'm going to define what that means before I give the answer. To me, a person with narcissistic tendencies is a person who doesn't feel guilty when they do wrong. They're willing to manipulate and control to have things go their way.
Right.
And they will 99.999, if not 100% of the time, turn it back on you after they have wronged you. So to me, that's a narcissist. They don't feel guilty. They don't really have a conscience. It's about them, and you get on board, or you're the one who gets punished or blamed. So if you're dealing with that, you need firm boundaries. And when we talk about boundaries in general, most of the time we can communicate our boundaries with most people in a gentle but clear way. Not with a person with narcissistic tendencies. You have to be firm and repetitive. I mean, it's a whole different ball game when somebody is uber manipulative. And if this is a person that's in your daily life that you can't just walk away from for whatever reason, they're a person that they're going to be in your life in some capacity, then you got to get really good at leaving a conversation as soon as it gets manipulative, hanging up a phone call, blocking the texts, whatever you need to do to protect your eyes and ears from a guilt trip or a series of lies or personal attacks. You need to have a support person you can talk to when those things happen. And, really need to distance yourself relationally. This is not a person that you can invite into the most intimate place in your heart. Danny Silk says, when somebody that we are in intimate relationship with, in other words, they have great access to our inner thoughts and feelings. That's really intimacy. They have great access to our inner thoughts and feelings. When they make a mess of the relationship that they are unwilling to clean up, you have to move them out of that place of emotional intimacy. Now, I'm not talking about if they're a husband, that doesn't necessarily mean divorce. If they're your kid, it doesn't mean you cut them off necessarily, or any of those things, but it's about the access you give them to your inner life. Are you bearing your soul to this person and then they're using it against you? Stop bearing your soul to this person. You can be civil and kind, and this is the rule Love and Logic gave, that no matter who it is in the world, you can treat them like you would treat a good neighbor. So if you go out to get your mail and your neighbor's out there getting their mail, what do you say? Hi, how you doing? That's how you talk to a good neighbor. Hi, having a beautiful day, isn't it? Right? You're having a civil conversation that's respectful. You don't have to engage beyond that with a person who has shown to be untrustworthy with your inner life and inner self.
Amen.
What would you add to that, Heather?
Well, I think it's funny because I actually did some research on this. So I was pulling up on the phone. I think it's, first of all, important to know if you're actually dealing with a narcissist, obviously.
Good
Second
question.
of all, what is this person in your life? Is this your husband? Because that's a totally different story than if this is a friend. Is this a person you're going to keep in your life? And if it is, that first, I think, and foremost, is what you have to decide. Is this a person that's staying in your life? Because if they are, like Kim was saying, boundaries are totally different. They refuse boundaries.
Right.
They fight boundaries.
Yeah.
I was just reading the one thing people with narcissistic personality disorder are extremely resistant to changing their behavior. So what they do is they try to change your behavior. And normally, a lot of the time, we do
Wait,
it just
can you repeat that? That was really good. Say it again, please.
sure. People with narcissistic personality disorder are extremely resistant to changing their behavior. So they try to change your behavior. And that's usually what causes their problem. Their tendency is to turn the blame onto others instead of facing, what they're doing. And so what you have to decide, if this is your husband, well, you love him, but they don't love the same way. They don't know how. It's not that they're just mean, it's that they physically, mentally don't have that capacity. So you're going to have a professional. You're
Yeah.
going to have to
Yeah.
see someone for you,
Yeah.
because you're
Don't
choosing
try to do that alone.
yeah, it's just not going to work. It won't work, because everything we think of as, well, you're a human being, this is very obvious that it's wrong. They don't think that way. That's just not the way their mind processes it. So I think my biggest advice would be, if this is a spouse you're talking about, you need to have someone you can talk to that is a professional. I would definitely have a therapist, and they'll walk you through the different ways you have to set up these boundaries. And it's going to be like when you have a 2-year-old and you're teaching them not to touch the outlet. You're going to have to be so diligent every time. Spank that little hand. Every time, spank that little hand. Do not make any adjustments. Don't let them, because they'll attack in every way. First, it'll be anger, then it'll be sadness, and then it'll be humility. They're going to just see where's the breakthrough. And they're
Right.
not doing it because they feel this. They're doing it to see how they can play you.
Yes.
Once
Yes.
again, it's not because they're mean, horrible people. It's because that's the way their mind works. So if
Yeah.
you're insist on being in this relationship with them, what you have to do is learn how to love them that way, and learn the tools to save yourself and protect yourself.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's impossible, but you definitely need help in order to jump that wall, because it's a big one.
So I have a little saying that can become the mantra of someone who is living with in their daily life with a manipulative person. We tend to fear a person who's highly manipulative because they've taught us there are things to fear, right?
Absolutely.
We fear their silence, or we fear their yelling, or we fear their punishment, or we fear their presence, and we fear their absence. Like, we fear it all. So
Amen.
yeah. So the saying is, live free of them, not in fear of them. Boundaries give you an opportunity to live free of them. And I don't mean, like, again, it doesn't necessarily mean they're out of your life. It's an internal freedom where you will say, oh, as soon as the conversation gets ugly, I'm hanging up. That's your freedom. And you tell yourself that when you get on the phone. And as soon as they start manipulating me, I'm going to say, that's manipulation. I'm out of this conversation. And that's
Right.
living free of them, not in fear of them. So you don't go
Right.
into the talk, I'm so afraid they're going to do this thing to me. You go into the talk, I am free to not allow them to do this thing to me. I don't have to listen. I don't have to engage. So live free of them, not in fear of them. That's my word to those of you who are feeling really afraid of a manipulative person. Sometimes they're not even loud or mean. They just know how to quietly twist the knife. You can be just as afraid of their sarcastic digs as someone else is at screaming and name calling, because it's uncomfortable. It makes you feel bad. So I do want to say to those of you who have a much more calm, quiet manipulator who just knows how to get a little dig in, it's okay if that has intimidated you in the past. It's unenjoyable, to say the least. But
Don't like it. Don't like it at all.
Nobody likes that. But I still say to you the same thing. Live free of them, not in fear of them.
Amen. Good word. Yeah. And remember, that's what boundaries are. Your boundaries are for you, not for them.
Right.
They choose to take them or leave them. It really doesn't matter, as long as you're doing what you set to do. So
your boundaries protect you from you doing things you'll regret, like listening to garbage.
Right. Yeah. And hang up that phone, block it. It doesn't mean you hate them. It means you don't deserve to be spoken to that way.
That's right.
Or treated that way.
Yeah.
So
you know what? I don't listen to guilt trips. I'm
Yeah.
all about having a healthy conversation. There's been times where I've said, are you saying that because you want me to feel guilty right now? Because it's not working. Because that's not happening.
Not
Just
work.
FYI. So are are you telling me your feelings in just a really underdeveloped way? Or are you legit guilting me right now?
No, absolutely. I've had to
Yeah.
say that to my kids.
Mm-hmm.
Guys, I understand you want me to feel bad, but I don't. I'm a good mom, so go away. Because
So
you always
good.
have that trash talker that's going to throw up every experience they've ever had every time you get into a fight. And, I'm sorry you felt that way. I'm not who I once was. Goodbye. Love you. See you later when you're nice.
I have a magnet on my fridge that says be nice or leave.
Oh, she does. I love it. I should have stole
Mhm.
that magnet. I love that.
I actually did steal it on
That's
accident.
great. In Nashville, right?
Uh-huh. I walked out of a store with it in my, like I had set it in my purse or it was in my hand. I don't remember. Got back to the hotel and I looked at my husband. I said, I stole. And I had just gotten my first tattoo and he goes, one tattoo and it's all downhill from there.
You're a terrible person, Kim, and nobody
It's
likes you.
like, oh my goodness, that ink does have an effect. No, I'm kidding. I did go back and pay for it and the guy could not believe I came back and admitted I took it and gave him money. He said, I've been in retail 10 years. No one has ever done this.
What a
And
good example.
yeah, he goes, I've never seen anybody do this. And you know what I said to him? I said, well, I'm not just anybody.
Wow, good for you. Maybe Kim has some narcissistic tendencies. I don't know.
I was like, don't you know me? I'm totally kidding. What I really meant was,
Sign a napkin and go, this will be worth something one day.
yeah, I was like, no, it's my faith. And I did say that. I said, I'm not just anybody. I said, I believe in God and I believe I should do what he wants me to do. And he says I shouldn't steal. So
Feelings wrong.
even accidentally. All right. On with the questions.
Okay, so I think we might only have time for one more, but great questions so far, guys. These are awesome. So this one, someone wrote in and she wrote us a lovely letter, but I'm not going to read all of it. I'm just going to break it down into the question and then one of the things she would like us to touch on. So
Okay.
if God is loving, you feel it? You feel it coming?
I know it's coming.
Why does he allow all of these bad things to happen? And then she went into some examples.
Okay.
So I think it would be awesome if you talked about why things like COVID, cancer, war, riots, sex trafficking, and those type of things happen in a world where God is supposed to love us. So, and that's a great question. That's, extremely controversial question. So thank you so much.
Again, like I said, not kindergarten here. We're diving into whole books have been written. Why do bad things happen to good people? I mean, this is a big deal. And theologians study this. And so I'm going to give you the short answer, and then I will explain it with the long answer. And I've heard it explained both ways, but just the first one being my favorite. When people say, why does God allow this to happen? It implies that it's God's fault, right? That it's God's fault that bad things happen. I mean, people get mad at God. And so that's the same as blaming him.
Right.
People lose their babies. And you guys, this happened to me. I miscarried a baby and I was mad at God. And I remember saying something and I didn't articulate I was mad at God. I hadn't even put my finger on that yet, but I was like, blah, 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 God. And this woman looked at me and she goes, oh, you're mad at God. And I go, yeah, I am. Okay, so when bad things happen and we blame God, the person or persons that we really need to blame it on is man. Bad things happen because of people. Now, I'm going to expound on that. When God created the world, he meant it to be a perfect place of abundance where we enjoyed a sinless, painless, diseaseless, murderless, theftless, covetousness society. Okay? Utopia.
Right.
The world was created to be a utopia. He gave, if you go to Genesis, you see where God gives Adam governorship authority. He says, Adam, I'm delegating rulership of this place to you. And then he says it again after he creates Eve. So he first gives it to Adam, and then when he creates Eve, he gives it to Adam and Eve. And he says, be fruitful, multiply, fill the earth, subdue it, and rule over it. Subdue it and rule over it. And so he gives rulership to people. Very shortly after that, Adam and Eve abdicate their rulership, and it is then in turn delegated to or handed over to the serpent. So it was never God's intent or his heart or his will that anything resulting from sin would be a part of his creation. That is a direct result of the choices Adam and Eve made in their sinful nature. But here's the good news. This is what I tell people. God gave that authority to man. Man gave it to the serpent. But then when Jesus died on the cross, when he came, remember he said, all authority's been given to me, and now I give it to you. So he now has taken back that authority. He's righted that wrong, and he's given that authority to his believers, the church. And we still sit here like, what are we supposed to do when all this evil is going on in the world? And we aren't even doing anything about it. So we can point back not to God, but to people, and, for why it exists. But then ultimately, the real enemy we have here is Satan, not God. Satan is having a heyday reaping destruction. John 10:10. The thief cometh not but to kill, steal, and destroy. So all killing, all destruction, and all theft. Theft of reputation, theft of money, theft of family, theft of opportunity, all of it, all theft of our destiny, all can go back to the enemy of our soul. And then Jesus says, but I have come that they might have life and have it to the full, have it in abundance. So what he's saying is, hey, remember my plan in the garden? Still my plan.
Right.
And so we can honestly say to people with all the love, I am so sorry that you are experiencing that, but it is not by God's hand. You have an enemy. And Jesus did everything he could on the cross. It's already been done so that you can have victory over your enemy in Jesus' name. So there's hope, there's joy, and there's abundance for everyone, even those who've lost. So after the Lord ministered to me about my miscarriage, I understood that God doesn't take life, Satan does.
Right.
And that the enemy was at the root of trying to steal from me and destroy me. And God, what he had for me was healing, and he had for me more children. And I'm not saying you can replace a life, but he gave me abundance. Obvi, I have a few kids, and more than anything, an abundant life in spite of the destruction and the havoc that the enemy has wreaked in my life in my past.
Right.
So I hope that helps.
That's awesome. I remember I lost a baby too. I lost two babies. They were twins. But I remember I also had that same, I don't think I was mad as much as I did not understand. That question kept playing in my head. Like, how does a God who creates and loves allow an infant to die? And I remember a complete stranger, we went to go look at a house. We didn't end up getting the house, never saw her again, never had a relationship with her again. She was literally placed in my life to tell me this one thing. Wow. And I don't even know how the subject came up. That's how short our time together was. But she looked at me and she said, what makes you think it was God's fault that your babies were killed? And she used the word killed. And I remember thinking, what do you mean? She goes, well, why would God want to kill your unborn child? And I'm like, well, that's what I'm saying. And she goes, God has no desire to destroy. The devil does. And he is reigning on this earth. So if you think, that it was God, you're very mistaken. God doesn't kill, steal, and destroy. The devil does. Yeah. And I remember thinking, holy cow. So what does that mean? That means I need to be more in prayer, protecting myself more, turning to God more, and, casting all these little evilnesses all over us out. We take it so for granted, but I mean, we can't leave a hole in the wall.
That's right.
We have to turn to God.
And one of the more simple ways I say it is the only way God can allow the evil and the things she listed in that, question are pure evil, like child sex trafficking and, things like that, where they're just unthinkable. So the only way God can allow the unthinkable is if he has provided the cure. If the cross wasn't a thing, if he didn't have a plan to redeem it all, there's no way he would have ever allowed it to go on the way it was. And I'm not going to go into great depth, but I can tell you that when we talk about the cross, we always talk about the blood of Jesus and the blood that was shed for sin. And all these things are sin, right? Well, what about the results of those sins? What about the diseases, the brokenness, the death? Those things aren't sin. Those are results of sin. But that's what the body was broken for. So I want you to see, if you're a believer in Jesus Christ, he didn't just die to forgive you and those who've hurt you. His body was broken to heal what's broken in your life because of sin. He didn't just provide the cure to forgive you. He provided the cure to heal all your diseases, to bind up all your wounds, the Bible says in Isaiah, to bind up the brokenhearted. He's the healer of the broken heart. And what he did on the cross in the shredding of his body when he was scourged for us, and ultimately his death, or his blood flowed to save our lives, he died with the cure for it all. Both sin and the consequences of sin were covered. That's the good news.
Boom. Let me drop the mic. Here we go. Boom. It's done. It's over. It is gone.
I like it.
Wow, great questions, all of you guys. And I'm so sorry we can only get to 3 of them, but those were really 3 very good questions.
Yeah, keep them coming.
Yes, Valerie, one of our loyal listeners, suggested a book for anyone who might be dealing with a narcissist.
Oh, good.
It's called Magic Words for Dealing with Narcissistic People.
Oh.
And I wanted to make sure that I mentioned that. And she said it was a great book.
Now, I'm going to take a minute to plug one of our few authors. So as we speak, we have a solo author named Catherine Champus, who is writing a book called The Lion and the Narcissist. And it's going to be an incredible resource for people dealing with narcissism, not only because she's a college professor, not only does she educate you on narcissism and what all the words mean and what to expect from a narcissist and what not to expect, she also tells her story of getting free from the lion, the narcissist in her life. So watch for that. It's coming up. We're going to be releasing her book later this year. It's going to be incredible. I know it's going to be a beautiful resource for men and women who are dealing with narcissism. And I'm so delighted that Few gets to publish that and turn out another incredible book that gives glory to God and helps people overcome.
Amen. That is so good. Well, it has come to the end, Kim. It's another ending to another great show. And also my computer's about to go dead. So
gotta wrap it up, guys.
We're wrapping it up, guys. Thank you so much for spending this hour with us. Please keep your questions coming in. This is something Kim and I want to keep doing on a monthly basis. So keep them coming. We'll save them, and then we'll get another show. I am so excited you tuned in. We love you guys so much. What do you have to say?
Love you so much. We love you so much. And please let us know how we can continue to serve you. We have more extraordinary stories on deck. Yep. We can't wait to keep sharing these amazing stories with you, like the many we've brought to you this last year. Oh my goodness, the Lord's bringing us incredible women who have incredible stories. We might even have a man or 2 on the show. In fact, drop down a comment if you want to hear some extraordinary stories from some guys, because Few is a platform for women, but I do get accused of leaving the men out a little too much. So
yeah, we do hear that a lot.
We love men. We think that men are just as glorious, created for just as divine destiny. It's just different. We celebrate the differences between men and women, and we declare they are equal but different.
Absolutely.
A to the men. We are not women's libbers that believe that women are better than men or could do men's job better than them. We believe that God wants women to be women and men to be men, but we need to do it at the same time so that the world can fully see the heart of God. My friend is frozen. Either that or I'm frozen. So hopefully we can wrap up the show not in a frozen state. Let's not have an Ice Age ending, guys. All right, Miss Heather's computer went dead, so it's my turn to wrap the show. Thank you for your questions. Thank you, viewers. Angela, Valerie, Karen, Shelley, Carol. Hello, Carol. That's my stepmom, guys. And anybody else who jumped on, we're just so grateful for you all joining. Shelley and Luz, I think I said Shelley already. Have an amazing Tuesday, and above all, be extraordinary and tell your story.